At Carly's house, Jax insisted that he had put Nicholas on notice and would be cutting him loose if Nicholas did not find Helena's portrait by New Year's Eve. He promised to be more tactful around Sunny. Carly was not happy with keeping Jax's secret. She admitted that she didn't know how she would react in Laura's presence, knowing that Nicholas was alive. Michael arrived and mentioned that he'd taught Dev how to skate. Laura stated that she was still waiting for Brad and Lucas to arrive. Jax received a phone call and agreed to meet someone. Carly teased both Michael and Jax about cleaning up after Thanksgiving dinner, even though Jax hadn't been a guest. Jax kissed Carly and left, and Michael went upstairs to check on the kids. Carly received a call from Bobby, who summoned her to the hospital. At the home he shared with Anna, Finn sat on the sofa and reread Hayden's goodbye letter. Anna descended the stairs and asked if he'd found any clues, but Finn admitted he was still trying to process everything. Anna mentioned that Violet had stored her part of the wishbone next to her bed, and Finn declared that Violet was his responsibility. He admitted he felt guilty. Anna reminded Finn that she had lots of experience with little girls and would be fine looking after Violet until she was a teenager. Finn perked up after hearing imaginary sounds, and Anna teased him. He stated that he had to tell Violet that her mother was gone, but he appreciated Robert trying to help find Hayden. Finn continued to pace the living room and insisted it was helping. Anna offered to get Roxy from upstairs, but Finn stressed that Roxy was for stress, while he was feeling angry and frustrated. The doorbell sounded, and it was Jax. Finn demanded to know what Jax had gotten Hayden involved in, because she had left town. Jax was confused, and Finn told him that Hayden had confided that she was in trouble. He wanted Jax to provide answers. Jax insisted that he wasn't familiar with anything that Hayden had been involved with, and they had only worked together at Aurora. Finn was certain that Hayden had had a side project, and Anna was convinced that Jax had had one, as well. Jax offered to check the Aurora office for anything that Hayden might have left behind. He assumed that Hayden had believed she'd been in danger if she'd left her daughter behind. He left the house, and both Finn and Anna agreed that Jax had been lying. Later, Finn walked down the stairs after checking on Violet. Anna teased him for the numerous times he'd performed the same act, and he admitted he couldn't help it. He was suddenly a single father. Anna promised that she wasn't going anywhere. At Shadybrook, Nicholas paid off a nurse to slip Ava a couple of pills that he had provided. He assured her they were safe. Inside her room, Ava lamented the fact that she'd had no visitors for Thanksgiving, not even Julian. There was a knock at the door, but it was only the nurse with Ava's medication. Ava noticed that the pills were not her usual, and the nurse assured her they were just a different brand and would make her feel better. Ava sat on the floor and recalled that it was the anniversary of Kiki's death. She got up slowly and, feeling dizzy, made her way to the bed. She lay down and suddenly heard a voice. It was Nicholas, and he called out to her. She turned around and saw him standing by the bed. Nicholas assured Ava that he was really there, but he was dead. He clarified that he wasn't really there but was in hell because of Ava. He drew closer. Ava insisted that Valentine had done it, but Nicholas declared that he was trapped because of Ava and had no peace. Ava was sorry, and Nicholas ordered her to make amends. Ava put her hands up in front of her face in order to block Nicholas from her view. Nicholas sat on the bed. He said that he'd thought they'd been friends who had understood each other. She had been there when he died, but he didn't blame her. He said that Spencer had needed Ava, and she began to scream. She knew what she had done. Nicholas accused her of betraying him by choosing her own beauty over him. Ava promised to make it up to him. Ava walked around the room, and Nicholas followed her. He told her not to allow Valentine to win, and Ava agreed. Nicholas asked about Helena's portrait, but Ava proceeded to whine about the wave that had hit her after Nicholas had died. She'd proceeded to lose Morgan, Griffin, Kiki, and Ryan, who hadn't been real. She fell to the floor, crying. She made it clear that Ryan was the one who belonged in hell, not Nicholas. Nicholas urged Ava to think of Spencer. He added that the portrait could right the wrong. Ava insisted she'd do anything for Kiki and Avery, and she knew that Nicholas would do the same for Spencer. She knew that Kiki would never forgive her. Nicholas confessed that he'd seen Kiki, and she was right there with him and suffering because of Ava. A murdered soul can never rest, Nicholas maintained. Ava grew hysterical and tried to crawl away from Nicholas. He continued to follow her. He asked if the painting had been sold. Nicholas helped Ava up. He told her that she could still help Kiki and Spencer, and they would all be able to rest. Ava begged him to help Kiki, and she cried that she hadn't meant the things she'd said to her daughter, who had been good, sweet, and pure. Nicholas lost his patience and again asked where the portrait was. Ava asked if he would forgive her, but she began to slur her words and drift off to sleep. She told Nicholas the painting was at the gallery. Nicholas helped her to lie down and thanked her. He ordered her not to tell anyone about seeing him because it was between friends. He promised to tell Kiki. Ava called out to him several times, but Nicholas was gone. "No more ghosts," Nina muttered in her sleep. Nicholas' ring lay on the floor under the bed. Valentine and Nina sat at a table at Metro Court and toasted each other with drinks. Nina was proud of Valentine for allowing Charlotte to stay with Lulu on a night that belonged to him for custody. She revealed that she had invited both Laura and Jax to their wedding. Valentine frowned but said he was okay with it. Valentine had a revelation of his own. He told Nina about Jax and Laura working together to retrieve Helena's portrait that possibly contained the codicil. If it existed, he would lose everything to Spencer. It could be fake, but he wasn't sure, and he had to be the one to get it first if it existed. Valentine didn't know how Ava had gotten her hands on the portrait, and he was certain she would start a bidding war for it. Nina thanked Valentine for being honest. He admitted he had a lifetime of bad habits, but he was trying. Nina assured him they were in it together. Just then, Jax arrived, and he grabbed Valentine's arm and pulled him from his chair. Jax manhandled Valentine and grabbed his jacket. "What the hell have you done with Hayden?" Jax demanded. Nina rushed to the men and got them to separate. Valentine insisted he didn't know anything about Hayden's whereabouts, but Jax declared that he was aware that Valentine had threatened her. Valentine accused Jax of working with Hayden to steal his estate. Jax stepped aside and phoned Nicholas. He informed him about Hayden, and he stated that things were out of control. Nicholas announced that he knew where the painting was, and he was on his way to Ava's gallery. Jax demanded that Nicholas meet with him right away, or he would go to the police. He added that he wasn't bluffing. Nina reminded Valentine that she had defended him with Jax, and she wanted the truth. Valentine insisted that he had wanted information from Hayden, but he hadn't sent her away. Nina agreed that that sounded like Valentine, and he appreciated it. He wanted to get to the gallery right away. He rose and leaned down to kiss the top of Nina's head. After he left, Nina phoned Shadybrook and asked if it was too late for her to visit. At General Hospital, Willow told Sasha that she'd taken the pregnancy test. Before she could divulge the results, Chase showed up and told Willow that Wiley was safe. He revealed that Brad and Lucas had been in a car accident. Carly arrived, and Chase updated her on the details he knew about the accident and the kidnapping involving Alexis and Kendra. He told her that Kendra was dead. Brad lay unconscious in his room and connected to tubes. Julian walked in and declared that it was supposed to have been Brad, not Lucas. A nurse arrived and asked Julian to leave. Bobby stepped off the elevator, and she and Julian joined Carly. Willow asked if she could wait with them. Brad dreamed of his conversation with Lucas in the car at the point that Brad had announced the truth about Wiley. Julian sat down in the waiting area, and Carly told Willow how she'd hated Julian and Ava because of what they'd done to Morgan. She guessed she'd gotten her wish for them to suffer. The doctor arrived with an update. Lucas was out of surgery and critical but stable. He'd had swelling on his brain, and they'd relieved the pressure. Lucas was in an induced coma until the swelling was down and would eventually be moved to the ICU. Brad awoke and found Willow and Chase by his side. Brad admitted his head hurt, and Chase informed him he had a concussion and bruised ribs. Willow updated him on Lucas, and Brad was desperate to be with his husband. Willow rushed out to find a doctor, and Chase asked what had happened. Brad recounted the accident as he recalled it and remarked that Lucas had stepped on the brakes, but the car hadn't slowed down. He didn't understand it. Carly and Bobby looked in on Lucas. Bobby admitted she knew too much regarding statistics for similar cases. Julian declared that he didn't care if Lucas hated him, but he just wanted Lucas to be all right. A nurse announced that 2 people could go inside the room, and Bobby went first. Carly urged Julian to go, but he only stood by the door. Bobby went to her unconscious son, who was hooked up to a multitude of monitors and tubes. "How did this happen?" she asked. Bobby sat down by the bed and spoke to Lucas quietly. Julian stepped outside and urged Carly to go inside instead. Carly sat, too, and she spoke to her brother. She demanded he rally, and Bobby added that there were 3 generations of women he would have to answer to. They wanted him to wake up. Eventually, Bobby asked Julian to sit with Lucas while she went to check on Brad. She urged him to talk to his son. "Look what I've done," Julian uttered. He'd made a mess, and he was sorry. He added that Lucas was supposed to have been at work, and Brad was the one who was supposed to have been in the car. He had been trying to protect Lucas, and Lucas was being punished for his sins. He wanted forgiveness. Bobby pushed Brad into Lucas's room in a wheelchair and overheard Julian ask for forgiveness. Julian snapped that he had referred to the time he'd wasted, and he regretted it. He left the room. Brad assured Lucas he'd wait there until Lucas woke up. Carly phoned Michael to update him, and she told him how glad she was that he had phoned Sasha. Julian was adamant that Lucas hadn't deserved what had happened, but Carly was convinced that everything would be okay. Michael asked Sasha to keep him company, and she complied. Michael was hopeful that everything would work out because Wiley could lose both of his fathers. Shortly after, Wiley was sitting on the sofa between Sasha and Michael. Sasha went to the kitchen to get some ice cream and returned shortly afterward with a tray full of snacks. Sasha noted that she'd heard from Willow that Brad was awake, and Michael stated that he'd heard from Carly about Lucas. Michael told Wiley he'd always have a family. Shortly after, Michael answered the door with Wiley in his arms. It was Willow, and she admitted that she couldn't stay away. Wiley laughed.